welcome to the Academia Career Panel discussion. We have 4 excellent speakers here today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a moment. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few things. First, I want to thank the volunteers from the Graduate, Postdoc, and Technician Network, or GPT Network for short. They're the ones who planned this event, from inviting the speakers to writing today's questions for discussion. And if you are interested in volunteering and joining this group, which I totally recommend, they're fantastic to work with, you can find information on our website and also post a link in the chat shortly. So today's event will start with questions pre-written by the GPT network volunteers, and we'll also have plenty of time for questions from the audience. Please write your questions in the Q&A box, not in the general chat. It is easier to manage the questions in the Q&A box, so it's more likely to be answered if you put it in there rather than the chat. So again, just thank you everyone for joining, and with that, I'll turn things over to our speakers. So Margaret, if you could start with your introduction.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Margaret Young. I'm an associate professor of biology at ECSU. Can you all hear me? Yes?
Yes, sounds good.
All right. I did my PhD and postdoc at Mississippi State University, did KENAF transformation and tissue culture. I have been at Elizabeth City State University since 2003. And when I came here, I was the only plant faculty. So that's something you have to think about when you go to a small university. It's a liberal arts program. We have no agriculture program. And the highest enrollment are the students that are in pre-med, pre-dent. We are part of the UNC system, University of North Carolina. We're a public HBCU, so we are governed by the UNC system. And in terms of biology, the courses that we do, we have to ensure that they are transferable to the other UNC system schools. So we are not autonomous. And we are considered a PUI, a predominantly undergraduate institution. And I predominantly teach undergraduate students. In terms of how many, we are a teaching institution. So I teach 24 credits total per year, unless you have a grant or you have an administrative position. So in terms of my teaching, service, and research, it's about 70% teaching, 3 to 4 courses each semester. For the last 5-6 years, I've been teaching general botany, 4 credit, molecular biology, 4 credit, applied stats, 3 credits, and biological research, anywhere from 1 to 3 credits. It's about 15% research that I have, and I do have a pretty active undergraduate research lab, mainly doing tissue culture and transformation. The students are paid from research and educational grants, and we can get into that later in terms of those availability of those grants now. And then about 15% service. I'm currently the greenhouse manager, plus I do a lot of outreach activities. So if you look on the pictures, you can see where we bring in students from high schools and middle schools to teach them a little bit about tissue culture and transformation. And then I have a collaboration with the local community college where they come in their horticulture program and they come in and they do some tissue culture. In terms of administrative position, I was the director, originally the liaison for undergraduate research for over 10 years. In fact, I fought to get this position. And when I was there, I resigned about 3 years ago. I got a course release. So I wasn't teaching 12 credits per semester. I was doing about 9. And then I reported to the provost. So thank you all for coming, and I'll pass it over to the next person.
Sorry, thanks for that introduction, Margaret. And then I'll pass it over to Lazaro for his introduction.
Oh, okay. Let me try to share my slide here. Okay, let me see, where is it? I think that you are seeing me.
Yes.
Well, my name is Lazaro Peres. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a professor of plant physiology at University of São Paulo, Brazil. Actually, in the agronomy campus of the University of São Paulo, that is in Piracicaba, in the not the main city of São Paulo, but in a small city. Well, I'm an agronomist. I do my undergrad in the University of Brasília, that is in the center of Brazil. I put a map of Brazil here because it's quite difficult for most people to understand the place that I'm mentioning here. I did my PhD at the University of São Paulo. My advisor was Gilberto Kerbal, that is, it was the guy that introduced tissue culture to Brazil in the 1950s. And I have done my PhD in using orchids as a model, that is a tropical plant or ornamental. And I have done some postdoc activity where I start to work with tomato. So I decided to use tomato as a model to study the hormonal control of plant development. Before I get with my current position, I went to the Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is more famous than São Paulo. I think that everybody knows Rio de Janeiro, not São Paulo. And but there I was a lecturer, so I was able to do research there. And then I start my current position as a assistant, not a current position. At that time, I started at the University of São Paulo as assistant professor, and then associate professor, and since 2019, I became finally a full professor. This is I put this because this is the way of the program of career in Brazil. So in each one of these, I think that USA is the same. You have to apply for it, and in some time you have to have other people that is applying with you. So it's a kind of competition. And I also choose another slide here just to show you. This is the agronomy campus of the University of São Paulo. It is, here is Brazil. So São Paulo is actually the name of the state of São Paulo. So we are by definition, a tropical country. We are in between the equator and the tropic of Capricorn. So my campus is here. The main campus is here. So it's a subtropical, it's more in the south. And when I go to my campus that is here, to the main campus, I cross this line. So most of the research in Brazil is related to tropical crops. Tomato is native from South America, but it's not a tropical crop. Actually, it evolved in a high altitude, so it not grows well here, but it's also considered a tropical crop. So this is my background.
Thanks for sharing.
The
campus looks beautiful too, the building. So might encourage some people to visit.
Yeah, you are invited. But we don't have many meetings here because you know, when people think in Brazil to do a congress or something like this, they choose the seashore because it's more touristic. So that's why I saw that Rio de Janeiro is better. It's more knowledge than São Paulo. We are not. We are far from the seashore, for example, but it's quite nice place. Yes.
Thank you, Marceline. Can you give your introduction?
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. As you see, my first slide, I love plants. So my name is Marceline Egnin from Tuskegee University. I'm a full professor. Tuskegee is a land-grant university. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Tuskegee is a land-grant university, and it's in the South. It's about 3,000 students, and it's mostly undergraduate, but heavily involved in research. I have an active lab with several PhD and master's students. I had a path before getting to this. I started in Ivory Coast. I'm originally from the Ivory Coast. I received a Bachelor of Science, which we call Licence Sciences in Ivory Coast, and then a maîtrise in genetics. Then I came to Pennsylvania, the Penn State University in the State College, where I obtained a master's degree in genetics. I work on sorghum mutation breeding. I also received a PhD in 1992 in genetics where I was exposed to biotechnologies, sequencing, genetic transformation, agro, tissue culture, and so forth. And since 1993, I've been employed at Tuskegee University. I'm a full professor, and my research spans over sweet potato, peanut, cowpea, yam, Arabidopsis, and tomato. And I have also an active outreach and extension in the South Africa, Asia, and South America. My appointments are research 60%, teaching 30%, and outreach, extension, and service 10%. That 10% is relative because you are involved 100% in those type of service. Biotechnology, bioengineering, and plant breeding are very critical at Tuskegee, and being the only coordinator of this center, we have to do a lot of work, and we are very versatile and work on different aspects of biotechnology and the new breeding technology. I have another slide, which I love my work because in 1890s, meaning historically Black university, as a land-grant university, you are involved in training students. You have to think of working independently as well as working in teams. We get to meet a lot of people because Tuskegee being historic, we have a lot of visitors. We communicate a lot. We practice critical thinking. And since we are a land-grant university, the service to the community, to the disadvantaged community is very critical, as the research that we do has to be portable and translatable to our stakeholder, and we have to make a difference. And in all of that, I have fun with my family. My most cherished achievement at Tuskegee is to the program that we developed that we call iBreed, which really expose minority student and any other student to the area of agriculture, plant science, plant breeding, and food science, so that they can understand what is at stake. What is not so much fun is the long hours, reading paper and grading, and busy weekend, and lots of travel. So I teach a course every semester. I have to do research, write grants, make sure that we train many students. I currently have 16 undergraduate in my lab, 3 PhD students, and 2 master's students that my colleague and I are supervising. So with time, we will talk about, with your question, I will answer more questions. And I have some other slides. So quickly to tell you that in academia, there is, especially in the land grant system, you have a tenure track system, you have a research track, and I'm on the research track. So meaning that mostly I have to do research, bring funding to the university, I have to teach and do the extension. And also as a land grant university, there is an extension track. And also we have a vet school, which is also a clinical track and its service, right? So we'll talk about other stuff. So I'll stop sharing, and then when you ask me question, I'll answer. Thank you so much for having
Oh, thank you for sharing. Yeah, you came well prepared with all your slides, so I'm excited to learn more and get more into life as a faculty member at Tuskegee. And Veena, you already shared, so I'll let you go ahead and give your introduction.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Plantain panel discussion. I was not prepared to do the slides, but I made quickly one, and I thought I give you what was my career look like in terms of where I got my education, how I progressed and did different things. And right now, I am in a role where I am a director of a plant transformation facility and also serve as a principal investigator at Donald Danforth Plant Science Centers located at St. Louis, Missouri. This is a nonprofit organization, research institution, and everybody in the Danforth Center work on plant science because that is what the mission is. And so that is very important because as I talk about my bio, it will become evident how things vary in different places or different organizations. You have heard from Margaret, Marceline, and Lazaro what it looks like to be in academic institution and other countries. So my flair is going to be between India and USA. Working in industry and academic institution as well as in a nonprofit research institution. And just to say a plug for Amy, Amy is working in a nonprofit organization. She's coordinator and she has a career progression where she is doing something different compared to what Margaret, Marceline, Lazaro, or me, we are doing. So there is no one thing that takes you or defined path we can or anybody can take. It is zigzag, and then the bottom line is you have to love what you're doing and then you have to find your why, and that is the key to stick around long hours in the lab and then unpredictability of this scientific outcome, but stick around and then wait for, every day is different and I like it. But you have to know your why and be passionate about it. That's what is needed in this field. And so this is my bio. And I thought this will be meaningful, especially from the people from India or somebody like neighboring countries who can relate to this. So I did my bachelor's in botany. And then why I did bachelor's in botany, anybody coming from India, their parents would say you need to be engineer or doctor. These are the two fields we focus on, nothing else. And there is no other direction people like to take, like when they're little or things are changing, but that's what it was. And during my middle school, I did the project in plant sciences. I was good in animal sciences, but I love plants. And so I ended up doing my bachelor's degree in botany honors. And then I liked it more. And then I moved to Jamia Millia University for my master's, where it was a bioscience program, where it was an advanced molecular biology or plant molecular biology field to it. And thereafter, I moved to JNU to do my PhD. It was in plant molecular biology, even though that university do animal sciences and variety of things, but I continued the theme of my plant biology passion. And there my work involved molecular characterization of gene, which nobody knew what it is doing in plant. And I ended up discovering its role in abiotic stress tolerance. And when I was doing that work, so JNU is an academic institution. And then in that very same campus, like near to that, there are multiple institutes which are the research institutes doing variety of things. And then one of the institute there is called International Center for Genetic Engineering and Plant Biotechnology. It is not mentioned here, but part of my PhD program I completed there. And there are different, again, people working in there on different topics. And then I was again focusing on plant biology. And once I discovered that a gene was having a role in stress tolerance, I went to that institute and learned how to do the plant transformation. And so I had the experience of tissue culture when I was doing my master's. And then when I was done, I thought, oh my God, this is very labor intensive. I'm not going to do that again. And then when I did my PhD and then found that there is a gene which has function in stress tolerance, I was interested in finding, can I make a transgenic plants? And so that's how I went back into that. I liked it. And then when I was done, I thought like, wow, it is labor intensive, but it is a really important tool and powerful tool to generate the plant, make it resilient to stress tolerance, or develop the trait which are very relevant to increase the plant productivity and so on. So from there, I went to postdoc. So here is my postdoc at Purdue University, listed here somewhere, I hope, or maybe not. Yeah, so Purdue University, I went there to do my first postdoc. I worked with Stan Galvin, and there I learned about molecular basis of plant transformation. And the way we approached in his lab was understand the in and out of plant transformation so that you can use to increase the transformation efficiency, or also use this learning to develop the to enhance the disease resistance, because agrobacterium is a pathogen as well. And then I continued that work and went to this institution as a postdoc where I'm working right now. As a postdoc, 3 years I worked in there, and it was again agrobacterium, but agrobacterium rhizogenes, and finding the molecular basis of hairy root formation. And when I was doing that, the beauty of the Danforth Center is it is non-profit organization, but it has more applied context to what we do here. And then academic institution, now they're transitioning to the activities which are, very commercial centric or product development. But institutes, even in India I worked in, they always had this applied context to it. And so working at the Danforth Center, I got the opportunity to meet with people and then move to Monsanto. And there I worked close to 8.5 years, worked in different fields. I was in trait development technology, then genome editing or genome modification technology, then plant transformation, production, and then got chance to interact with regulatory and so many other things. And as I was developing, again, I thought like, do I want to continue or use my knowledge to do something else? And so I ended up doing MBA, project management training, deals and negotiations. So other kind of things I started training on. And then I came back to Danforth Center as a director of facility. And so currently in my role, I do train people. And then most of the part for us is enabling others, which means enabling other people's idea and technology and give them the products they are looking for, and then having them focus on their trait, but we enable them to make their process efficient using transformation technology or genome modification technology. With that, I will pause, and then I will be happy to answer any question.
Thanks, Veena. So I did see some raised hand from our participants. So this is from Hussein Ahmed. I'll just allow you to talk. If you have a question, you can ask now. If that was a mistake to raise the hand, you can also unraise your hand just by pressing the same button.
And Amy, you can point and ask us who will answer so that we don't get confused.
Okay, sure. So I'll walk
Thank
you
you.
guys through that. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is I have some prepared questions to ask our panelists. Again, just thank you to the GPT network volunteers for putting these together. So we'll go through these questions and then we'll have time for the audience questions. So again, for audience questions, you can either write in the Q&A box or you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you. So starting with our first question, it is, what does a typical workday look like for you? And we'll start with Margaret and then go down in order.
All right, because I'm heavily into teaching, my workday revolves around my courses. I like teaching in the afternoon. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, I start from 1 and I finish around 6:30. So I don't mind teaching in the afternoons and in the evenings. Mondays, I do a lot of paperwork and I do a lot of grading. I have one course on Monday. So I come in the morning, I start grading, and in the afternoon I grade. And I don't do things online a lot. So it's all the handing things or it's face-to-face proctored courses. Tuesdays and Thursdays is when I deal a lot with my undergrad in the lab because they tend to be free from about 9 to about 11:30, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm in there with them. And usually if they come in as a new student, I personally train them. So they learn to make media, pH meter, autoclave, and then pour media, and then they'll get a little experiment. And then by the time they get to junior, senior year, they'll have their own project. Wednesdays, again, I come in around 9 o'clock. I have a class at 11. So I'll prepare for those classes. And then I have a lab at 4. So making sure those labs are prepped. And for botany, we do 8 labs for the semester. And then for molecular biology, we also do 8 labs for the semester. For molecular biology, the labs are pretty intense and they can be anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks long. So I try to mimic what would happen in industry or at, for master's and PhD. And then Fridays is when there's a ton of phone calls and answering emails, etc. I don't take work home. I live about 5 minutes away. So for me, it's just easier to come on a Saturday. And yes, I know work-life balance, but for me, it's just easier to come on a Saturday and I prep a lot of my exams. Because most of my students want to go to professional programs, medical school, dental school, etc. They have external exams. So I try to make my exams reflect like the MCAT, the PCAT, the DAT, etc. So I spend a lot of time prepping exams, making sure the exams have the weight and the rigor that is needed. So that's what I do on a Saturday. Saturday, usually I come in around 9:30 and I finish about 1:32. So that's a typical work week for me.
Wow, so it seems like something different for every day, basically. Okay, yeah, wearing lots of different hats. How about you, Lazaro? Can you walk us through what a typical workday looks like for you?
Well, I just realized that I'm not so organized as Margaret because I don't have this this every day of the week the things that I guess that I'm
I
not
have
able
to be.
So, no, that's good. Maybe I should too, but here I think that the first thing that I should say is that in the University of São Paulo and most of universities in Brazil, we don't have this job description. That meaning that you are not appointed to do a percent of research or teaching. And while actually we have a joke for this because since they expect that we do everything at the same time, the joke is that we are like the duck. The duck, it's a bird that it's able to fly, to run, to swim, but since it's not specialized, it's not doing something as it's not, for example, it's not the fly of the duck is not so high or something like this. So it's a compelling thing here. But most of the people, and this is my case in University of São Paulo, we tend to put more time in research, because this is the thing that is more important for University of São Paulo, because it's more we do classes in the undergrad and grad. For example, for me, I have to do class of plant physiology for undergrad student of agronomy and biology in the first semester. The semester, the typical semester of Brazil, it starts in February and ends in June. And then in the second semester, that is from August to December, I do class of molecular aspect of plant development, that is my specialty, for a graduate student, for a PhD and master student. But when I say that most of the time I'm not doing classes, I'm trying to do research. But actually, what I have is more bureaucracy. So I do a lot of paperwork that is correcting writings from my students, doing projects, trying to write papers, and progress report. This is. And now, currently, I'm the head of the Department of Biological Science. So this gives me a lot of bureaucracy that the head of the department should deal with the other professors or assistant professors, and also the staff. So this gives me a lot of bureaucracy. And I noticed that you have a activity on Saturday, Margaret. On Saturday, I take this to go to my plot, but I work a lot there. As I used to say that I pretend to be a farmer in the weekend, but this is quite nice to me, because from trying to cultivate some things there. Sometimes this get me some inspiration for research and also for my teaching, because my research is quite specialized in tomato development, and most of my students in agronomy, they are not interested on this. They are more interested in soybean, that is a major crop for Brazil, or something like this. So in my plot, I have the experience of other things in agronomy, for example, that I can bring to them. And in my now my lab has very few students from master degree and PhD. There is something strange in Brazil, that after the pandemic, the number of grad students, they in the past we used to have a lot of students, but now people are less interested in the academy and this start after the pandemic. And we don't know exactly the reason from this. That's all.
Great. I like that your gardening is for fun, but it's also kind of it's inspirational for your work.
But doing gardening in a tropical country, it's quite hard work when you do this in a hot climate. Yeah. So.
All right, Marceline, what does a typical work day look like for you?
Well, when I look at a typical day, I was wondering, how do I approach this? Because there's no such thing as a typical day in a small university like Tuskegee, which is a land-grant university. Every faculty and staff, we have a heavy load, heavy collaboration load, and also in teaching. So if I take a semester, let's say the fall, so I teach plant breeding, principle of genetic and plant breeding. So my classes will be Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it has a lab. On Thursday, I have lab in the afternoon. However, Monday, I have to prepare the classes, because we have to grow plants, we have to cross, we have to breed, we have to do molecular technique. transformation, tissue culture in those classes. So I have to prepare. That will be my teaching, which will be Tuesday, then Thursday, but I prepare Monday and Wednesday. Then I meet students on Friday as a office hour. So in terms of my the research in my lab, I have several students, so I have to tend to them. So the stage is we don't have postdoc at Tuskegee. Very rarely. We are small. So after 32 years, I still work in the lab, teaching my PhD and master students, helping them learn how to do research, because those who graduate are automatically hired, so they are gone. So I'm still heavily involved. So a typical day will go from 8 to 8 p.m., 10 p.m., I'm still in the lab. Then you put on top of it grants. I have a research, I'm a research appointment, so I have to write grants. And at Tuskegee, you write grants, you do your own budget. So if it's a grant period, I have to provide time to do my own budget, my own paperwork. Then there are reports that I have to write. So it's very heavy. Then there is a service. I'm a biosafety officer for the university, so I have to review papers. I have to review people who have to apply for field trial, people who have to apply for biosafety approval. I'm involved in my college, so it's very, very heavy load. But you learn to love it and do it, because the reward is when you see the student succeed. In the spring, I teach one class, which is biotechnique. It's a 4 credit. So I teach molecular technique. So it's Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, a total of 8 hours. So I have 2 hours of lecture and 6 hours of lab. So imagine Margaret and Veena Veena knows a little bit how to, when you're doing transformation or you do a molecular technique with kids, with students in the lab. So it's heavy, and I don't have a team. So sometimes my PhD student help me. And like Margaret, I have to come Saturday to do report, to work on certain other things. And the university, for example, on Monday, I'm sitting in the lab and I get the call, the president is coming with people in your lab. So within 15 minutes, we have to set up and receive him. So there are an unexpected event that we have to tend to. And service also meaning that I have to communicate with the farmers, the community, the surrounding school. Over the summer, I run a workshop for high school, for teachers. So all of this you have to prepare, and you have to write report. Then your collaboration, your proposal collaboration with other universities, you have to keep up and write your report and make sure that you are up to date into your meeting. I have a meeting, one of the plant gene PI, Joyce Van Eck, we meet once a month, to talk about research. So it's a heavy load for us in academia, especially in small university and land-grant university, when we have mandated crop we have to work on. So I take my colleague at Cornell, each of them work on one crop. I work on 4 or 5 crops with 4 different aspects of research that I have to put myself in it. And I think Veena Veena, being the director of facility at Danforth, will understand what I'm talking about. It's daunting. But if you have the love of teaching, research, education, even though it's a heavy load, the success of your student really makes it easier for you. So my daily work can changes every day.
Great.
Um,
Yeah, noticing a pattern here with the, each day is a little bit different.
Yes.
So, Veena, how about you? What does the typical work day look like for you?
I'm glad I'm going last because I feel I'm combo of everybody. And we as a plant gene are responsible for some of the time Margaret and Marceline we take away from her full day. So we cause pain and time there. But as Marceline said, if you love something, you will figure out a way. And that is the key I started with, and I'm going to continue on that. And regarding my workday, and so it is so unpredictable. I try to give some organization to it. And it was the battle I realized I'm not going to win. So I accepted it. And the way I get around my day to keep flexible, keep myself flexible and adapt how and what I'm gonna do that day and prioritize. If there is something need my urgent attention, I will do it. And one of the challenge I I experience because I'm a service provider. Danforth Center is international organization. My client base is throughout the US. We are in 2 different time zones and also the world time zones. And then if somebody need, and especially when you are a service provider, when somebody needs something, they need then and they want the outcome yesterday. And if issue happens, then if equipment failure happen or some issue happen, scientific failure or something, I know and understand world is not ending, but still people want to get the solution as soon as possible. And so what is my take on it is I love what I do, so I adapt. And what is work in progress for me is I would like to have work-life balance. And so Margaret is the example. Margaret has the organization. It doesn't mean she's not efficient. Some people are really good at it and then they are superly efficient. And so it is the work style we grew up with and we evolve with time. And so I'm working towards that. So I'm work in progress. And so regarding kind of things I touch on daily basis, and then again, it's very flexible. I deal with IP, biosafety, I take care of 4 crops and any crops come on my way. I deal with that and handle depending upon the question, writing publication. I do involve with software onboarding, data management, budgeting, regulatory policy, and then I have team management role, which all of us do, and how unpredictable that can be. It's very interesting. And then scouting for new technology. And one of the thing, like when you are doing so many things, it's very important to build trust within your team so that you can get done. And then as people in the Zoom who are trying to get into the field, it is very important. Like collaborative work is very important. If you want to go far, building trust, building collaboration, whether it is with your colleagues and then your bosses, it's very important. But again, unpredictability is the key. Every day, every minute is different. And and I just accept changes, constant and evolve and adapt. And love what you're doing. That is all I want to say on this.
Thank you, everyone. That I think is really helpful. That gave me a good picture of what it looks like for you and kind of the different hats that you wear in your position. So on to the second question. What drew you to plant biotechnology and specifically to academia? I'll start with Margaret.
All right, I kind of fell into plant biotech. I went to university to do a degrees in chemistry and math and hated second year math. And I just thought, okay, why not botany? And so I took second year botany, wasn't bad. And then I took a course junior year, plant cytogenetics. I fell in love with that. And then senior year, I did the advanced version of the course, crop genetics. And so in Jamaica, they do have experiment stations for coconut and banana. So part of that course was going to those experiment stations and just seeing the different varieties of those plants. So that kind of opened up my eyes to, hey, here's a career that I could be interested in. Plus, we had to do statistics. So the math came in handy. But when I left university, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I started teaching high school. I taught high school first for 2 years straight. And I really enjoyed taking those undergraduate labs and converting them to high school labs. And we had a little plot. So I was planting stuff because I didn't come from a farming background or anything like that. So then I had a professor who reached out to me and said, how about coming back and do your master's degree in plant breeding? And out in the field. Never did that before. Almost had sunstroke the first time I went out there. Because even though it's Jamaica, I'm not used to that heat just standing out there. And I remember the first time I planted, never checked the weather. And it rained in the afternoon. So I had to redo the experiment. And so in Jamaica, I did my master's in botany, concentration in plant breeding. I worked on sorrel is this plant that we grow. It's called Jamaican sorrel, or it's Mexican sorrel. And so I did some mutation breeding and some natural cross-pollination, etc. And then I thought, okay, this is the field for me. And so I got into Mississippi State University under Nancy Reichert and did my PhD and postdoc under her. The project was paid for, a side project that we did was paid for by Monsanto. Monsanto. And my postdoc, I did 4 different crops, looking at improving tissue culture, particularly, and transformation. But from teaching those 2 years and then teaching on and off through my master's and waiting to get into a PhD, and then when I got to Mississippi State, I actually volunteered to teach sections of courses because I really enjoyed meeting those students. I really enjoyed opening up those eyes, and I learn a lot. You learn a lot when you teach from students. You know, sometimes they come up with an answer that you never thought of. And so I really enjoy teaching. So when I was finished with my postdoc, I knew I wanted to teach. I knew I wanted to be in academia. I knew that I wanted to do research. And Nancy, I came to the US with background in, not transformation, but with genetics, typical genetics. And so her lab was a tissue culture transformation lab. And then I saw how much that could enhance classical genetics. And so that's how I got into tissue culture. That's how I got into transformation, making vectors, those old times. I'm making, so you're talking about somebody from the late 1990s and 2000, and then taking that information now to Elizabeth City State University. So I wanted to teach at a small institution. I wanted to really be hands-on. And so I am completely hands-on. I have not lost my skills as yet. It's taking me longer. My back is getting tired. My hands are not as flexible as they used to be, but I'm in the lab with the students. So that's my pathway to academia.
Thanks. How about you, Lazaro?
Oh, okay. I think that as Margaret, I'm very bound to base research. I start with this, and in Brazil, if you want to do base research, you should go to the academic, because we don't have many companies that are doing. We have a lot of companies here doing research on crops and something like this, but they don't do, for example, this link between base research to applied research. Part of this is because most of this company, they are international companies, and they are not from Brazil. So this is the best place that you the academic is good for this. And then specifically to my field of interest now, it's I think that as other people here and even in the case of Margaret, and my guess is the other people is the same. Well, things are happening and you are adapting to them. So I start my PhD with orchids. Then I realized that to study plant physiology, you should have a genetic model. So at that time, I was thinking in change to Arabidopsis, that the best model. But since Arabidopsis it's difficult to cultivate Arabidopsis in Brazil, even though you are using grow rooms and artificial lights, but it's not very easy, because if you want to do, for example, mutagens and you have a lot of plant, you should go to the greenhouse, and to cultivate Arabidopsis in a greenhouse in Brazil is a challenge, because our climate is not adequate. So I fortunately chose tomato. So I start to use tomato as a model after my PhD. It's very interesting. And then I realized that most of the facilities that you have for Arabidopsis at that time, they were not available in tomato. So I start to do mutagenesis in tomato, and also the transformation, the genetic transformation of tomato is not very straightforward. So we develop a protocol to transform microton, that is our genetic model, and since then I was more involved. I was more involved with tomato genetics than plant physiology, and one thing that is very interesting in when you are using a crop, not just a tomato, it's a model, but it's also an important crop. An important crop is that as natural genetic variation that is related to stress resistance. So we start to try to isolate the genes behind natural genetic variation, for example, for heat resistance, or for drought resistance, but we realize that most of them are polygenic. So this is not the approach that you should do. And this brought us to the de novo domestication. And that is the last thing that we have done in our lab. Now, de novo domestication became quite famous, but fewer people realize that the reason why we start to do that, we got this idea of de novo domestication is to deal with the polygenic nature of stress resistance in especially those related to natural genetic variation. But I'm not very bound to de novo domestication. So because it's not very, I can't use plant physiology knowledge in de novo domestication. It's more genetic. So I return to plant physiology, to hormonal control or genetic control of plant development. And now most of the research in my lab is related to trichome development. That is also related to stress resistance, but especially to insect resistance. That is a major problem in tomato. But I still have this problem, because if I discover something that is applied in tomato for insect resistance, is quite important, I cannot trade this to Brazilian companies. I should go to these international companies that is outside Brazil. This is a challenge for us. But this is the thing that brings me very interested in academia nowadays, because another very important thing in academia, you can choose, at least in Brazil, what you want to do. So there is no such a thing that, now you should work with soybean, because soybean was important for Brazilian economy. No, there is not such a thing. And I love this. And Margaret said, or Veena said, that you should love what you do. And this is, I like this, because sometimes there are some drawbacks to stay in the academia, like the thing that I said about the company that are not from Brazil. But I love what I'm doing. I love research, and the academia is the best place to do this, I think, because you have more freedom. And that it's impossible to be creative if you don't have freedom. I think that's my opinion. That's all.
So it's my turn, and I would say I fell in it, and also destiny. So a side story. I'm originally from Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. Its economy is heavily based on agriculture. So almost everyone is in agriculture, commercial farmers. So my father was one of them, growing coffee, cocoa, pineapple, palm nuts, timber, and exportism. So exporting. So every summer, we have to go to the farm to meet the farm workers, to look at what they are doing. And I was always taken by the farm workers' spouses. They always have like vegetable garden. So I'll go around looking at the flowers, picking at the flowers. I was so fascinated. Then few days or a month later, when we go back, those flowers turn into fruit or vegetable. So it was very fascinating, not knowing that that would be the path that I took, but I hated agriculture. So in school, so coming from Ivory Coast in those days, in the 60s, 70s, the government decided your path in school, where you're gonna go. From high school, if you're going to the university, are you going to become a medical student, an agronomist, a biological science, a geologist? And all these are based on how you perform in high school. So in high school, I excel in sciences, chemistry, and genetics. We took genetics. So I was, to go to college, I was put in the biological science track. And in the biological science track, I excel in genetics of all, and plant physiology, animal physiology. You know, for those of you who come from overseas, you know that undergraduate studies are very diverse. You really do everything from plant, animal, microbe, soil, and everything. So we did everything. So being very good at genetics, I was put my last year, which we call maîtrise, after my bachelor, maîtrise in genetics. So I was put in the genetic track where I did plant genetic, animal genetic, microbe genetic, and so forth. So when I finished, the government sent me to America to do biotechnology, because there was the tobacco, they were talking about biotech, how biotech can revolutionize agriculture. So the economy of Ivory Coast being based on agriculture, the government sent few of us in the US. And in the US, I landed at Penn State. And Penn State was into biotech. So my master was in genetics, but I work on sorghum mutation breeding. And it was so wonderful to see all these mutant, dwarf, tall, short. It was wonderful for me to, for the first time, I was doing true research instead of the labs that we were running in Ivory Coast. Then I got a scholarship from Pioneer. If those of you, if you knew Pioneer Hybrid, and Penn State got together to give me a scholarship for PhD. And I stayed in the genetic program, but this time with a molecular biology aspect. So it's an interdisciplinary genetic program. So I got to take classes in biochemistry, chemistry, agronomy, horticulture, genetic, and everything. And I had my first agricultural biotechnology class, exposed to agrobacterium. I took 2 classes of genetic, statistics, and everything. And having a background in plant breeding as a master's degree was wonderful. So during my PhD, I was able to do cloning. Margaret was talking about cloning, old style cloning. It was so beautiful. Cloning and sequencing. Oh my God, sequencing manually. So I learned all of this, cDNA synthesis, RNA, DNA, and northern, southern, and then PCR. Yes, it was so wonderful. So I was into that. I said, well, this is the path I'm going to take. Then I got my PhD. And as an international student, when you get your PhD, you either go back or get a job. So early 90s, I got a job in up north, and I was told, oh, this job is for Americans, so you can't get it. Then I turned around, Tuskegee University offered me a job to come and work on sweet potato transformation with a storage protein gene to increase the protein and change the amino acid profile for sweet potato for the astronaut. Isn't that wonderful? So I joined Tuskegee in January 1993, and I'm still here. So I was able to put in practice all that I've learned and also train students. So Dr. Prakash and I were the only biotech people. So we have so many students to train, and it was so wonderful to see that they were learning a lot. So in addition to that, we have to write proposal and have our own research path. So in 1997, I was made assistant professor, and I had my own research. So I work on gene discovery, trying to figure out the genes that are very critical to sweet potato storage root development. It's the most important, economically important aspect of sweet potato. Do transformation, and right now in my lab, we are involved in non-tissue culture transformation of sweet potato and tomato. We have developed a lot of protocol and program. We work on nematodes, are critical, devastating pests for sweet potato, the storage root. Weevil are very devastating for sweet potato. My lab has cloned the eukaryotic initiation factor, which are critical during potiviruses resistant in sweet potato, or all of those things. So in addition to that, I did a lot of field trial for transgenic plant at Tuskegee, so very versed in it. The students in my lab, when they come in my lab, they are not focused on one thing. You have your research, but you have to be diverse. And that's the beauty in academia. The freedom to be involved in different projects instead of coming and work on tissue culture alone, but you get to learn cloning, transformation, PCR, and all RNA, what do you call it, northern, southern. And then in teaching, I improvise. I have the freedom to improvise, and that's the beauty of even though if it's a lecture, I have the freedom to add a lab aspect to it. And that's the beauty of academia. And then the service is for me to really translate my knowledge to the community, and make sure that the farmers also have a participatory approach to what we are doing, because as a land-grant university, we have to render service to our community, which Tuskegee has 12 counties that they serve. We call them the Black Belt County of Alabama. So we work together. If they come to us and say, okay, we need help in this aspect of research, we have to render the service. I have a lot of collaboration with Cornell, UC Davis, North Carolina, and Stan Gelvin, which Veena Veena knows. And Stan Gelvin has been really a good mentor in terms of agrobacterium. I've been reading about them since he was, since Eugene Nestor, with Eugene Nestor and agrobacterium, so really critical. So I advise everyone that collaboration is key, especially if you are in small university. You have to make yourself available and known and be involved in other universities' research. So that helps you really help your own student into your lab and expose those students to other area, because these are the next generation of leaders. If they stay in a cocoon, so how do they compete in the world? So in my lab also, as I said, being the only plant biotech lab, we have to work on different aspects of work. Like, for example, one of the students work on drought and cowpea. So I have to be cognizant of everything that goes on in drought and cowpea. The one who work on sweet potato and nematode, I have to be cognizant. The tomato work, I have to be cognizant in everything. So the versatility is there, and I love it. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but the love, if you have the love, it's very, very critical. So for those of you who are seeking to be in academia, make sure that you know how to market yourself, make sure that you excel in different area and you learn different areas. So I'm gonna stop here. I can talk until tomorrow about my love for science. So I will let the other people speak.
Thank you. Your comments and everybody's comments again resonate so much, and with my journey as well. And like how I got into this field. And so, as I mentioned, the culture and the tradition in India is everybody become doctor or engineer. But my family was very open. Even though, like in my family, there are people, journalists, politicians, doctor, business, farmer, but not like genetic engineer of plants. And then I was the one who ended up taking this field, but I had freedom to choose and then adapt for my liking. And so that was good thing. So I thank my parents and people who were in my life and mentors. And there were couple of moments, as you say, Marceline, destiny and then life-changing experiences, and so which made me move towards this field more and more passionately. And so like many of you, maybe everybody entering in this field aspire to be a teaching professional, professorship track or things like that, and maybe some people will be in commercial or industry path. And so when I got into doing my botany honors and all those things, my goal was to study because I love plants. That is all. And I did my master's. I was doing botany honors and I joined deeper botany honors in my master's program, and I changed in the middle because I wanted to do the advanced biological sciences training because I thought that would be the future. And then it was a good move, and my parents asked why, because you are in good university and why you're changing to that, but they convinced, and that was the first move that helped me be in this area. That was the first. And when I made that move, I was exposed to tissue culture technique. And then anybody who is here doing the tissue culture, you cannot learn in couple of months. It is the art and religious work, or maybe consistency and learning. There is a lot of things goes behind. So that's why it becomes very boring. And then I did my master's and went to do PhD. And then PhD was in plant biology and plant molecular biology, gene function analysis. Again, I was shooting for the track of teaching or things like that. And what happened 3 years into my PhD, and I was about to, I was making so good of a progress that I could have finished my PhD very early. And then what I came to know that somebody else published exactly the same work somewhere else in the world. And then I had to restart. So I had 6 months of crying. time, like things which I could do very effectively all the time, I could not because I was so sad and so frustrated. And what happened is that was the turning point in my life that I did again all the project, took the project to new direction, went to this International Center of Genetic Engineering, learned plant transformation. So that was the second, moment. And then I recognized the value of plant transformation or genetic engineering. And that from there, it was very specific move to Stan Galvin lab, and then he was very happy to have me. And then in his lab I learned the foundational principles, not just like I can transform one plant, what happens when transformation happens and things like that. And still I was on the track of teaching or professorship. And then as I was moving forward to my next postdoc, which was in Danforth Center, which is, nonprofit organization, application oriented in St. Louis, where Monsanto is located. I got the opportunity to move there. And there I understand the value of what we do. All the work we do stays in publication and then it cannot be applied to society benefit. I just didn't see any value. Like, it is valuable, it is fun, it is cool, but how it impacts others, what we do. That is what I thought that, taking this learning, what we do in research and bring it to next level. So Monsanto trained me for that. And then stewardship, compliance, IP, and all those things. So getting exposure in that field, and then regulatory different streams within the Monsanto, I realized I need to learn business strategy. And because I was not finding peace between 200% proof verification of anything we do and then take a move to the application side. And so it was very good move for me to do the business training and business strategy and couple it with what I like to do, help me be who I am today. And then I just, never turned away the opportunity to learn or getting any training which could be relevant to make me work better in what I do. And then basically, and help others on that process. And so when I was young, my goal was learn, make myself better. In this current role, all of us are in a position how make others help achieve their dreams. And so by sharing our experience, like we are doing. And with that, I will pause.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for sharing your experiences. So we have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to switch over to audience questions. I'm just going to ask everyone to keep their answers succinct so we can try to get through more questions in the time that we have left. Some of these topics are, I think we could just talk, this could be a whole webinar just in itself for some of these questions. So I'll just start with this question from Hagos Juhar. How do you manage family responsibilities alongside all the demanding work you do? So again, I think that's a tough question, but we'll start with Margaret.
Well, I'm lucky that I don't have kids. So, but I've had to, over the years, really take off on Saturday evenings and Sundays because I was finding myself going to the lab every day, especially since I live so close. Oh, I need to go do this. Oh, I need to go do that. So I had to learn, okay, Sundays are completely off limit. Do not take work home. Once I get home, it is all about what is happening in my house and just to block out what's going on at the university and also take vacations away from the university. Staycations doesn't work for me. Staying in my house and thinking I'm not going to go over to the university. So I've had to learn to take vacations, don't bring work home, take a day off. Because in the middle of my career, I kind of lost it. I think once I got tenured, about 3-4 years later, I just almost like I was having a midlife crisis. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to stay in academia or whether I wanted to go into that administrative position. And thankfully, I gained back my love for doing research. I gained back my love for working with students. And so I'm fully back in there. And I think because I was so focused, I did not take enough time to relax. And if you're at a university like this, you can spend so much time doing service, especially. So that's how I have my work-life balance.
Thanks. Good advice, Lazaro.
Oh, I have two kids, two boys. One of them is now doing his undergrad course in veterinary. That's the thing that I really like. I love plants, but I also love animals. So I'm jealous about him. And well, we in Brazil, me and my wife, we took a lot of time look after them when they are youngest. The second one is still it's 16 years old, but now it's the best phase of our life because they don't. At the beginning, when they were babies, that was quite hard. So you can see this reflects in my career, the number of publications, something like this is interesting. In Brazil, there are people that they have a lot of help from the families, for the grandparents or grandmothers, but it wasn't the case of my family because I'm from the center of Brazil, that is 1,000 kilometers from the place my grandma, my mother and my father, they were not able to help us, and also the parents of my wife, because my wife is from Paraguay, that is another 1,000 kilometers from from the place where we live. And this took a lot of time for us. And this is quite important. I think that this question is important. And but now we are in a good position because they grow up. So, but I remember that I took a lot of time teaching my grandson. Not my grandson. I don't have them yet. That's my son that is now doing veterinary. It has a lot of problem with math, for example. So it made me relearn what I learned when I was a student in math or other things. And sometimes this also help in the lab to put all this knowledge again to have this. But that's it. It's a challenge, but it's for us. It's important to have this kid. But I do believe that there are the other way of life. So there are people that they decide not to have kids, and it's also. But they for sure they have all other challenge, as Margaret said. Yeah.
So for me, I will make a point that duties of academia, especially in teaching and research, are daunting. So, and then it's demanding, especially when you have to show achievement in terms of writing grant, be successful, and really for your tenure and promotion. In early, I have a daughter, and I was lucky to have my mother with me. So I travel with them. I involve my young daughter in all the workshops. I'll pick her up in school and bring her. So she used to be in the lab helping the students, do their work, which wasn't right, but she loved it. So that was a plus for me. I used to take work home because of grant writing. It takes a lot. And it just had you have a pressure on you. But with time, you learn to balance work and family life. And I learned to do so, not to take work home, but sometimes work long hours. I had my mother home, or bring my daughter with me, and you know, that was a great thing for her. She would tell me, yeah, all I need is to be with you, even though you are working. But if you are you intend to come into academia, you have to think when you have family and start planning on how you're gonna manage that. If you are a single parent, it's very, very, very hard on you. So truly think. But it's possible. You can make it. It's possible.
And regarding me, I second what everybody said, and so I'm gonna be brief so that we can take other questions. So we talked, all of us touch base. We take work home, right? And then if you don't have kids, you still have parents to take care. So family means both direction, and so it's important. And then everybody has different ways to deal with it. There is no one size fit all. And then also, if you're not happy and comfortable, like, you know, if your family is unhappy and then you are not able to manage that, you're going to take these burdens to work. Your work efficiency is going to be impacted. And so it is two ways. So please, like my suggestion is, do not ignore family, because this is what you're doing. So read about Steve Jobs and then read about other things. So like family is equally important as your career. And then and then you have to choose what is important. And again, there is no right or wrong. If you choose your career centric, there is nothing wrong with it. It's all good. And then do not allow other people to judge. It is your journey. And then you may have to take a stop. That's all okay. And you have to restart. That is all okay. And then many people come in as a family or colleague. That is okay too. But it is both way street. And then look at the sign at work, what is happening with colleagues and all those things. And then look at what is happening with your own personal space at home or wherever that might be. And then one example I would like to give, if I am out traveling and then if I'm stressing about still for work, and then it is not going to be helpful. So what works for you is what you need to figure out. And knowing these examples, it can help out you to think what or figure out what works for you. So that is how I would take this.
Thank you, everyone. So the next question is from Jabit Das. What criteria are most critical for selecting a postdoctoral mentor or laboratory, particularly when aiming to transition from a genomics-heavy PhD background into more interdisciplinary or applied agricultural research? So I don't know that everyone can speak into the interdisciplinary or applied, but yeah, Veena.
I can speak, so I believe you're trying to transition, and if you're not being successful, then try to take some courses in your university, wherever you are, and then do some, volunteer activities or engage in a collaborative project they have. And then if you do not ask or do not do, answer is you're not going to transition. So, and then never give up, because there are many reasons why things don't work or it is taking time. And then do not continue to try the same path again and again. If it is not working out, there is a reason or lesson in there. Take the lesson, assess what you're trying. If you're going to try to do the same thing, outcome is going to be exactly the same. So that is principle of life. And so you assess and then find the people. And then if one door closes, there are so many people in the world, right? And so, but again, if somebody chooses not to engage, respect that, because you don't know the reason, and then explore. But the thing is, if nothing is working out, then nobody can stop you to gain the training or educational training on that field where you want to be transitioning. And that way you can open many doors. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with what Veena Veena is saying. You have to have a proactive engagement with the scientists and also know how to market yourself. You have a genomic background, so you look for labs which are involved in the plant, but they need the genomic aspect. And so you market yourself to them. Try to attend meetings, other meeting where you present your research. And some scientists may see that, oh, they need your expertise in the lab and so forth. There are a lot of society meetings that you can attend, SIBB, ASPB, NAPB, All Science Agronomy. Nowadays, many of the researchers who don't have a genomic background are looking for people with genomic background to help them in their new research direction. So there is opportunity. Don't give up and keep going.
Yeah, and then when you're talking to somebody, prepare. Don't go and say, I want to learn, so help me train this. Why they have a reason to invest their time from their busy schedule? Go with the plan that why they should train. How can you be helpful? Just time is not going to be enough. You know, they need to see value what you can bring to the table by engaging with you. So plan for that, even if that means, oh, I got the training, I can do this or I can do that. But you have to show them they have a reason to engage with you, not you only have the reason to engage with them. So it's mutual process, okay? It's two-way communication, two-way street.
Yeah, okay. I agree with Marceline that attend to the meetings will be interesting, and for do this is also maybe one of the strategy is to choose a crop. For example, if you choose tomato as a crop and be involved with them, the best. This is another question here related to this is the Solanas community. So there, going there, you see what is relevant for that crop. Solanas is a different crop, but it's actually a congress about tomato. They say Solanas, but it's all about tomato and also some potato. So to choose a crop and be involved with them to learn what is the problem about that crop may be one of the strategies. But for other people, it's more important, as I learned here, to be involved with different crops. This is you have to plan a strategy to attack this, to do this transition from genomics to more applied science or to learn what is relevant to different to a crop.
Yeah, and wherever you are now, there's
Yeah.
probably some applied ag going on. Get involved with those professors where you are right now versus going to the other lab with no background.
Thank you, everyone. And then I wanted to follow up with something that Marceline said. So this will be our last question is, what professional organizations do you recommend to connect to plant science faculty? And are there any online communities specifically you'd recommend? So Marceline, I know you mentioned a couple, the SIVB, ASPB. Is there anyone else who has found a helpful community to connect to plant science faculty?
NAPB, hot science, agronomic, crop sciences, and research-specific organizations. Sometimes they have meetings. And the online community, I think ResearchGate, LinkedIn, I see people advertising themselves, asking people that they need a position. Then there is academia.edu. And even on Instagram, people are now putting research stuff on Instagram, so you have to be proactive up there and market yourself a little bit on those free online platforms.
Yeah, many of the scientists have transitioned to Blue Sky.
Oh, okay.
So Blue Sky is where I found my community on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
And we all transitioned over to Blue Sky. So Blue Sky is where it's at.
And please do not, when you're marketing, please do not overblow your capabilities and expertise. That will make you fall really bad. if you did 5 times PCR reaction, that is not called a expertise.
No.
Or you did 1 transformation or 3 transformation, generated 20 plant, that is not a expertise. And so be realistic. What you write on your resume, what you say you will bring to the table, because that is where it results in mistrust on the person. And so be very realistic what it means, like what you can bring to the table, and then build on those, and then take the feedback. Is that enough? If and then work on that, what is enough, understand, and you will find the solution in very odd places. So one direction is, keep eye open what is happening around you and your landscape. Okay.
Yeah, I think that LinkedIn is now it's more interesting than Twitter, so it's more professional. I don't know Blue Sky. I should start because yeah.
Blue Sky have like
Mhm.
plant packs
Yeah.
where there's like
That's
1,000
good.
people you can follow. You just click and they
That's good.
follow them
Good.
instantly.
Uh-huh.
And they're specific for certain areas. So that's what I really like about Blue
Well,
Sky.
interesting.
Yeah, so Planting is also on the social media. So we do
Oh, yeah.
we do LinkedIn,
Mhm.
which is our most active, and then Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. I do post job openings, majority from LinkedIn. So if you don't already follow us on there, follow, so you can get that information about those career opportunities. So we're at the end of our time today. I just want to thank you to our panelists for sharing your time and your expertise. It was just fantastic to have a really open discussion about academia, some of the successes and high points, as well as some of the challenges. So again, thank you just for your willingness to share. And I also want to say thank you to the volunteers who planned this event. And lastly, just thank you to the audience for contributing to today's discussion, for showing up, for asking questions. And lastly, I want to advertise that we do have a discussion forum that is specifically for graduate students, postdocs, and technicians. This is new. We just revamped this whole platform. So if there's anything else that you'd like to discuss from today's event, you can continue the conversation there. Just log into the Plangene website and you'll be redirected to a page where you can click on the discussion forum. And again, I just want to say thank you to our speakers, and I'll see everyone at the next event. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Was a
Bye.
pleasure.
Plangene would like to thank the National Science Foundation for their support. To learn more, please visit their website at nsf.gov.